Hello, hello, and good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Circuit Stream's open house here on a beautiful afternoon on February 23rd. Super excited to have everybody in the audience join us today. If on the right of your screen, you could enter the chat box there. Can somebody please just let me know how's the audio? How's the visual? Can you see me? Can you hear me? I'd hate to be talking into a vacuum right now, so please just let me know on the screen here. Dean, thank you. Charles, good to see you, and thank you for letting me know as well. Great to see everybody in attendance today. Once again, welcome to Circuit Stream's open house. We're excited to have, oh, no vacuum. Thank you, Saurabh. Thank you for letting me know. We're excited to have all of you here and to share all of the exciting things that we've got going on here at Circuit Stream. Before we kick things off, there are a couple of housekeeping items that I do want to run everybody through if this is your first workshop with us. For the folks who have been here before, I'm sorry, we do this at the beginning of every webinar. Today's going to be no exception. So on the right of your screen, everybody's already discovered the chat box, which is great. Feel free to network in there, toss your LinkedIn, collaborate with people. We are all XR enthusiasts after all. That's why we're all here. Up at the top of your chat screen there, so top right of the screen, there are questions, polls, and people tabs. We do ask that if you have questions, please navigate to the questions tab to paste them there. That will really help us stay on top of things throughout the recording, or pardon me, the webinar. At the end of the webinar, we are going to be doing an in-depth Q&A session as well. So we're going to answer all of the questions then. So please paste them there to help us stay organized. And then to the right of the questions tab, we've also got a polls tab. Periodically, I will be inserting polls. I'm going to warn you, so don't worry about that. But when I say, poll incoming, please at the top of the screen there, head over to the polls tab so that we can engage the audience and get to know you just a little bit better. I always like to start these workshops and webinars off with this question as well, but please let me know, where is everybody tuning in from? I myself am in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. We've got Mike, who's going to be joining us. I'll introduce him in a second. He's in Indiana. And Warren, who's also going to be joining us. He's in the beautiful sunny coast in the San Francisco Bay Area. There he is, Warren's right there. We got Floyd and Bailey both from Colorado. Mustafa from Berlin, Canadian here. Hey, welcome, in Atlanta. Good to see you, Andy. Mike's in Bloomington. Daryl from Vancouver. Awesome. Well, great to see that we're all tuning in internationally. Nice to see so many new faces here today. For those of you who are located internationally, this webinar, as with all of our webinars, is recorded. So for all the folks who have to jump off, if you've got a late night meeting or it's bedtime or supper time with the family, whatever the case might be, don't sweat it. You are going to get sent the recording from today's workshop. So, just so you're aware, it will be recorded. Now, in terms of an agenda, I'm going to take about 10 minutes here. I want to introduce the company, talk about the VR and the AR industry generally, introduce our guest speakers, talk to you a little bit about the programs that we have to offer here at Circuit Stream, and really set the table for our guest speakers today. Speaking of our guest speakers, we are going to be doing two sort of fireside chats with each of them individually. Talk about their experience at their companies in the VR and AR space, their educational journey with Circuit Stream, and their future plans. That should probably take about 30 minutes for the both of them, not each, don't worry. At which point, once we wrap that portion of the presentation up, I'm going to come back on screen to wrap things up, heading into the Q&A session, which, depending on how many questions there are, might take 10, might take 20 minutes. We will see. But with that said, and with that out of the way, let's get rolling. I hope that these GIFs are coming across okay here on your screen. Sometimes the bitrate is a little bit of an issue. I always like to start by talking about the VR and the AR industry and sort of how we got to where we are today. And the truth of the matter is, VR in particular was really accelerated at the outset from the gaming and entertainment communities. Today, however, we've seen immense growth in professional VR and AR training scenarios. As you can see here, this is somebody, it looks like they're studying the brain and they're measuring some different parts and reading about the different components of the brain in AR using either a handheld AR device or a head-mounted AR device. And it's Super cool to see how the industrial community is using VR and leveraging AR capabilities to do some training scenarios. And we're also seeing tremendous growth in the UX and UI use cases as well. On the left there, that's sort of a next-gen application, and even 3D model and overlaying. So all kinds of fantastic use cases, and incredible to see the growth. The takeaway here is that today VR is not just for gaming anymore, though of course the VR gaming scene is still extremely strong and accelerating super, super quickly. My name is Kyle. I'm going to be your host and narrator, moderator, whatever you want to call me for the day today. I'm the education lead here at CircuitStream. I bring about 3 years of professional experience spanning across the law and sports industries and now into the wonderful world of VR and AR. We always like to share a fun fact about ourselves in this workshop. And for those of you who have seen me host these workshops in the past, you might have already heard this one, but I did have the pleasure of working with the Toronto Raptors during the 2019 NBA championship run. So I am an NBA champion. Did I play? No, absolutely not. However, it was an amazing, exhilarating experience and one that I will cherish for the rest of my life. So I always love to share that story at the beginning of all of our workshops. We do have Mike in the audience at the moment. Mike is going to be the first person that I speak to with our fireside chat in a few minutes here. Mike is the interim director of Student Central at the Indiana University's Bloomington campus. He's been in higher education since 2012, but he's also got a wealth of experience in the financial sector. He's currently finishing up his master's degree in animal-computer interaction, and he's also really, really passionate about helping injured wildlife and orphan animals rehab and return to their natural habitats. His personal journey in the VR and AR space began last year, and since then he's made tremendous progress with his prototype. He and I will definitely be talking about that in just a few minutes, but yeah, it's a really cool project and one that really blows my mind. I also mentioned Warren. Warren is going to be joining us, and I'll be chatting with Warren after I wrap things up with Mike. Warren's been working in streaming technology for about 10 years to this point. He's currently a live solutions consultant at YouTube, helping to consult and product manage some of YouTube's largest live broadcasts. Prior to his career in streaming tech, Warren worked in the renewable energy sector as an equipment technician. His educational background is in political science, and he's also done some graduate coursework in public administration as well. Personally, he's really into gaming, VR, and streaming, obviously. And he's really passionate about continuing to upskill with professional tools as well. And it's exactly this approach, that continual upskilling in the professional landscape, that allowed him to transition from renewable energy to a career in the streaming space. And today he's applying a similar approach to learning about VR and AR with us here at CircuitStream. Speaking of CircuitStream, who are we? Where are we from? What do we do? All of that fun stuff. Well, we're a company that was founded in 2015 when we noticed a gap in the personalized training and education spaces. To date, we've had over 35,000 students come through our programs, and that's a milestone that we hit a few months ago, and we are so proud to hit that milestone. We're also a Unity authorized training partner and channel partner, which I'll speak about in just a minute here. And additionally, we are independent services vendors with both Microsoft and Oculus as well. Today, we're a team of about 20 experts coming from all over the world, from vastly different backgrounds, to teach folks of all skill levels about the value of VR and AR and how to build apps in Unity. Speaking of Unity, CircuitStream is a Unity certified training partner. And training partners are approved based on their expertise, their focus on quality education, and their commitment to providing the highest level of training available. We strategically partner with Unity to collaborate on creating new educational training content of the highest quality for people of all skill levels and for their companies. So above all else, CircuitStream is an educational company. As you can see here, we've had the pleasure of working with some of the world's largest and most exciting companies. And given how quickly the XR industry is accelerating, the biggest companies in the world are taking notice and innovating with the technology. For us, it's been an absolute privilege to work with our customers and an honor to teach members of their companies how to build this content. So how does it all manifest itself? Well, we have an academic portfolio of free online workshops and webinars like today, and also a variety of courses that we offer. And these are all designed to help students learn how to build VR and AR content in Unity. These courses are mainly for beginners, but we do also offer a more intermediate or advanced course, for folks already proficient in Unity and in programming with the C# scripting language. We break down our courses into two main categories: full courses, short courses. When I say full courses, I mean that in addition to the live, part-time, and online lessons built into each program, you also get weekly one-to-one time with an expert to work on a personal project that you are personally passionate about. Both of these courses on screen here are our flagship programs and our full courses. It's important to note that what we're teaching in these courses aren't unique to any one platform or piece of hardware. So we're teaching you a collection of fundamental skills and best practices that are generally applicable to any headset on the market. The short courses, which I'll speak about in a minute, are different in that we are teaching for specific learning goals or specific learning outcomes. On the left, the XR Development with Unity course is a beginner-friendly 10-week program designed to get you prototyping your own content from scratch in the Unity engine. The XR Project Accelerator course, on the other hand, is more intermediate or advanced course learning for folks who are already proficient with Unity and with coding in C#. This course is all about taking an existing prototype that you've got and bringing it to the next level. For now, I don't want to spend too much time on these programs, but I will discuss them in greater detail later on in today's presentation. Warren, for example, who you'll be meeting shortly, has taken both of these courses. So his insight will be valuable if anybody here in the audience today are considering which course might be more appropriate for your skill level as it exists today. Now, you might be asking yourself, what makes us different from other VR and AR educational companies? It's really the one-to-one support that's included in and even after our programs. We believe that fundamentally the best way to learn something new is to get your hands dirty and build your very own prototype with the help of an expert from our team. They'll meet with you every week, and having the opportunity to work on your very own project for your portfolio is such a major benefit, and that's what our students love about learning with us. We do also offer one-to-one training packages with our instructors if you want to learn without a preset curriculum. Unlike Warren, Mike, on the other hand, he actually started with a one-to-one package before joining Warren in our more advanced XR Project Accelerator course. Now, complementing our full courses, we do offer short programs as well. And just like the XR Development with Unity program, these are taught part-time, completely live and completely online, and remain beginner-friendly as well. However, unlike the XR Development with Unity course, the curriculum here targets more specific learning areas that are particularly important for beginners to know, or might be of specific interest above and beyond fundamental skill sets and general best practices. These two courses, which I'll break down in a minute, can be taken as standalone programs, but we recommend getting started with the 10-week course and pairing these courses up with them to further facilitate that holistic learning environment. Not to be forgotten is our team training opportunities. If your company is considering investing in VR and AR technology, or is looking to have a group of folks upskill in this space together, we would love to work with you to create a customized training path designed to suit your company's specific needs and challenges today. These boot camp style sessions are great because they teach specifically what you need to learn to maximize the value of your investment and innovation with this technology. We've had the pleasure of working with organizations like the US Navy, Walmart, VMware, and most recently, just last month, BMW as well. Okay, great. Now that you've learned a little bit about us, let's talk briefly about Unity. I've mentioned Unity quite a few times already today, but I want to be sure that we're all up to speed here. This is the first poll that I'm gonna put into the polls tab. So if everybody could head on over to the polls tab and answer this one for me. How much Unity experience do you have on a scale of 1 to 10? Please let me know. I'm curious to know sort of where the audience is at today. Okay, so I see a lot of zeros, a few ones, a couple threes and fours. The audience is mostly beginner today. No problem at all. We typically find that getting started in these workshops is really great. Okay, so for the beginners in the audience, what is Unity? Unity is a free 3D development engine for building games, simulations, and experiences. It is without a doubt the easiest way to begin creating your own extended reality or XR applications. XR is just an umbrella term for both AR and VR and mixed reality as well. So that's the landscape in Unity. It's the engine where this content is all created, and it's our engine of choice for teaching how this content is all developed. So without further ado, I'd like to bring Mike up here on stage. We're super excited to have Mike join us today. He brings a wealth of knowledge and experience in the higher educational industry while working at Indiana U. And he's also made massive strides in the XR space and is really, really working on an awesome project with our team. Mike, great to see you. Thanks for coming up. Welcome. How's your day going? How are you doing?
Great to see you, Kyle. I'm doing great. Thank you. Love being here with the Circuit Stream team and the community. And it's been something that I've taken part for about the last 9 months on the other side of this.
Wow.
And it's really cool to be part of it today and have front row seats to hear Warren's story. So as much as anything. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate you saying that, Mike. We're super excited to have you, and thank you so much for joining us. I'd really love today to explore your journey in the XR space, how you went about assessing a training partner, sort of where you're at with your project today, your long-term plans, how IU is thinking about this technology and integrating with it. So I've got a series of questions for you, and I think let's start at the very beginning. How did you first discover VR and AR, and where did your journey begin?
Yeah, thanks. So I'm not conventional or traditional as a XR learner in so many ways. Some of that is because I'm not looking to enter into the field, or start a career or whatever, right? And I'm not a gamer. I'm not like, there are lots of elements about the augmented reality, virtual reality, XR, MR space where I just didn't participate. And I had a year ago, I had never heard of Unity. I'd never used it, so on. So getting started into that was a little bit about completing some coursework, because you mentioned I'm working on a master's degree. And really that intro to Unity was about the augmented reality as it applied to artificial intelligence, right? So it really wasn't about building gaming structures, but how can we model artificial intelligence? So.
Very, very cool. Yeah, I mean, I remember when you and I first met, it feels like forever ago now, you were saying, how can I take what I'm doing and complement it with what you guys are doing, but not overlap with my beginner studies? So at what point did you decide to transition sort of your coursework and your application there and pursue strictly XR training and XR content? When did that transition happen for you?
Part of this is about the project that we're working on, and we're going to come to some of the details there. But that path was the departure from where the fundamentals are that we can learn in some of the coursework, and where I was hoping to take it, which is sort of uncharted territory, right? So we've got new devices, new technology. And at the time that I was really getting into this, then Unity was releasing things like its Mars tool, right? So which are really powerful tools for creating augmented and virtual reality. And it was the chance. There wasn't instruction on that. There were no YouTube videos. There was no coursework for that was set up, and your team was not only out in front of that, but I was working with devices that were harder to kind of tackle. So Magic Leap has a great bit of support. I have a Magic Leap device. I have in real glasses. I have some things that maybe not everybody has, and it's a little more challenging. But your team has the kind of insights to know how to get those set up and think about the design that will go into how do I make this work given what this device can do, whether it has depth perception, for instance, and can do occlusion, or whether it can, what's the field of view and what are the design considerations there. So it was great that since I was kind of charting this newer territory, that I had access to expertise that I really couldn't find in a lot of places, including I have some great instructors on campus who do tremendous work. They just hadn't seen these new tool sets.
Right. And sort of, was that the thing that stuck out to you about us? Was it that the ability to roadmap something challenging, that hands-on expertise, was that the thing that really stood out to you?
Yeah. So when I started the search for how am I going to supplement what I'm trying to do, one of the original places is I went to Unity and I looked for their recommendations on certified instructors, right. and that led me straight to you. And so I started by participating in some of the workshops and right. just checking those out and going, I really like this approach here, and it just kind of grew from there. I've made the case that I've never been able to overinvest in CircuitStream in terms of spending my time there, because I find that really returns. I really move forward faster, and it's not just the expertise from the individuals. It's because there is this ecosystem, this community, right? So it's great when I can watch some videos, and you all have some that I can devour in free time. But it's the feedback. It's having that interaction. It's so that what was great about the one-on-one, but also there's the Slack community, and there's right. the having these different perspectives from people who are in the XR Accelerator course from all kinds of backgrounds from all over the world. So that feedback has really helped me to move forward much faster than I would have if I were just being spoon-fed information in a course, or if I was just consuming YouTube videos. And so that's right. been a big part of how I've been able to move forward much faster than I would have otherwise.
Amazing. Yeah, and we typically say, and I think you and I spoke about this, we typically recommend that people take those baby steps on their own first and start with something like a Unity Learn or a pre-recorded course just to see if it's for them. But really, we find that having that engagement and that passion for something that you're invested in, that we can help you with, is really where we can add value. So I'm glad to hear that you've benefited from that yourself. I do want to hear about your project, Mike. I was speaking up about your project, just sort of in a nutshell. What is it that you're building? Where were you at before you started learning with us, and where are you today, and what's next? Really, I want to hear the whole journey there.
Okay, so it's a little unusual, and it really did. The inspiration came from something when I took the course at my university in the spring. I took it with my daughter, so I have a high school age daughter, and
oh, Mike, are you there? Uh-oh. He was just getting to the good part.
Am I back?
Mike, you're back. Sorry.
Okay,
so
great.
you and your daughter were taking a course in the spring.
Yeah, sorry about that, folks. So yeah, we were taking a class, and it was on virtual reality, and so we would build some assets in Blender, and then also play around with them in Unity. And the idea that we wanted to do was related to some research on Alzheimer's patients. And what we were looking at is some really groundbreaking stuff from MIT researchers from a few years ago that continues today. that suggests that people with Alzheimer's their brains may respond to a certain flicker rate. If you flash LEDs at 40 hertz, that might help sort of trigger the janitors that clean up the some of the plaques in the brain, and that can be good for Alzheimer's folks. And it was as easy as them putting some tree lights, some flickering tree lights in front of mice to first discover that, and they've since been continuing those studies in folks. And so we asked, can you do this in sort of like video games? And there are kind of some examples out there, but we wanted to take that further and say, what about an augmented reality experience, or what would that look like? So we've been building. So the project is designed around trying to build in a full-fledged experience for somebody that sort of introduces elements of that therapy that we can then use to better understand and research about some of the thresholds for where is that effective, right? So as an example, I've got props. If I were some of the stuff that's on the market, let me see if folks can see. These are basically like wraparound sunglasses that have LEDs in them, and the folks at MIT would use something like that. And you would sit in a closet and effectively and wear those and get half an hour of that light therapy. And they've learned since that sound is very helpful too, right? Gets to different parts of the brain. So we asked, well, can you do that with other devices and include the physical environment, right? So we used the Magic Leap devices, and I mentioned that we've used the in-real glasses, which are going to be soon released in North America. So what we want to do is take folks out into the world and have those same experiences, and not just be isolated on the sofa or something, but really bring them into the world and see if we can't bind that therapeutic value to their real world experiences with some of their favorite places or favorite music or so on, so that we're not just introducing a half an hour of sort of downtime, but we're really reinforcing that by having it in what they call the game transfer phenomena. Something in the old days it was Tetris brain, and the idea is see if that continual out of game play that your brain likes to do can kind of bring that therapy back in. So we've been building that in Unity and building it across platforms and seeing if, so we test it out on phones and tablets as well as the head-mounted devices. And again, I didn't have the first step, so it's really come a long way in the last year.
Amazing. That's such a cool story. That's groundbreaking stuff too. I love the collision of emerging science, medical research, real world therapeutic application, and XR. I think that's really, really incredible. So where's your project at today, and what's next for you with respect to this work?
So we've got a lot of the many of the game mechanics in place. For now, we've been using a lot of assets that I can, either build simple assets, like say we just use Blender or something like that, or I can just go to the Unity store to acquire a fully animated, rigged something so that I can use as a placeholder. But we want to take this further so that it has, a full vertical slice that somebody can play during research, because you would want to use this with medical providers' care, right? There are things, if you strobe those things, you got to worry about things like epilepsy and so on. So the project is at a point right now where even last night we received news that we are finalists in the Jinwoo Innovation Challenge here at IU. And so that makes us, as finalists, we'll be competing for up to a $20,000 prize. Amazing. To advance this into its next stage. So it's really cool to see that sort of being recognized. And I got to say, early on, like when I floated this notion to people, we didn't have this sorted out, and we didn't have the skill sets. Like, yeah, that's kind of trash, guy. And and now, as a fan of possums and raccoons, and as somebody who might have, baby possums and raccoons in his in the garage at any given time, getting ready to return to the wild, then telling me that, hey, that idea is trash is not always a bad thing, but we did learn how to make that, stronger, bring the design ideas, and then actually get it to because we had the training on how to, do more with Unity, then we understood better, like how do we make this more exciting? How do we make this more engaging, and so on. So a lot of the development came as a result of understanding the technology better.
Incredible, Mike. Congrats on the huge news. I had no idea that you were up for such a large scholarship or investment opportunity there. You'll have to update us on how that goes. Incredible. So I want to ask you about your experience. So you started with the one-to-one training package. Unlike Warren, you didn't do our XR development with Unity course. You did some one-to-one training with Jerry, who's one of our instructors here and our head of education, and then proceeded to end up in the same course as the accelerator. What were those experiences like? I'm curious to understand sort of your thoughts on the difference between an unstructured one-to-one package and then something structured, the applied learning materials in our accelerator course, for example.
Yeah, and I did have a little of both because I had some of the coursework at my home campus, right? So I had some introduction to what's the setup of the editor look like and what are some basic things in scripting. Enough so that when I fill out the poll for, what's my skill level at, then I would usually, respond with something like 3. I actually raised that today, so I put a 4 in today because one of the qualifications is, would you come up on stage? Would you be prepared to come up on stage and talk about these kinds of things? So I gave myself an extra point for that just for today. Anyway, so what I'm doing is I'm talking to the people out there who are recognizing, they're not at that 7 and 8. Well, that was me too, and because I had some fundamentals there, and I knew that I wanted to go, in some very different directions with some very new technologies. The one-on-one was really important to do that. If I had been taking the 10-week course, which I think would have been really productive for me, I wouldn't be able to move into some of those new territories confidently. Right. And I had, in order to really do this confidently, I have to make a lot of mistakes. I have, in order for this to work for me, I have to really, struggle with this. And so that one-on-one was the kind of support that allowed me to do that very confidently, and then put me at a good place where I was ready for the XR accelerator, having tried out lots of things and been able to develop those, a little more in depth than my initial instruction. So, very happy with that process.
Amazing. And I was going to say, we're wrapping up. We're in the final week of your accelerator cohort. You said you got one more one-to-one with us. It feels like the end of an era. It's kind of bittersweet. But anyways, that's my personal problem to deal with here. I want to ask you just 2 more questions here, Mike, because I want to respect your time as well. So, aside from your project, IU generally, I know you mentioned that there's a few courses there. Are you aware of any sort of institutional level innovation that's going on at IU? One of another university that we've worked with in the past, they recently launched a chemistry lab. So you can do your chemistry labs all in VR, which is a really cool project. So I'm curious to see at the institutional level what IU is doing with this tech, if anything.
Yeah, it's great watching this stuff, sort of emerge on campus as we see it emerging in the entertainment, industrial, and educational markets. And so yes, there are virtual reality and XR labs on space. There's lots of new instruction on there, and then we are seeing new entrants, even on an almost weekly basis anymore, where you see Samsung or Apple or Google or whatever making announcements about the products that are coming out. So our students are getting out in front of that in terms of their research, and it's and there's increasing infrastructure on campus to try to understand how does that work in the design? Questions for VR and AR are very different frequently. There might be lots of overlap in terms of how do I build this in Unity, but in terms of that experience, those are going to be very different. So we're still trying to understand a lot of that. How do we use that, and how we incorporate that in the way that we deliver instruction? So it's been really cool to see all that, like, really starting to mushroom at this point, right? So there's been a lot of hype in the previous years, and not all of that has come to pass, but we are starting to see some real progress lately, and it's been very cool to watch that.
Amazing. Yeah, we're in the same boat. We really have seen how this is bigger than gaming, right? This is bigger than airplane simulators, or it's not just for the military anymore. This is real, and this is where we're going. That segues perfectly into my last question for you, Mike. How do you, where do you see the industry going to 1 year, 5 years, 10 years? What do you think our new reality is going to look like, emerging and immersing, pun intended, with this technology?
Yeah. I am looking forward to what's going to happen in some of the big arenas that are obvious: entertainment and gaming and education and so on. So, but I think I'm looking more forward to where this sort of technology is ubiquitous, where it's just everywhere, and it's helping out in ways that are absolutely, integral to how somebody lives out their day. I'm making the case that I think that the grandmother should be part of the core audience here, not exclusively the doctor or the soldier who can afford a $50,000 headset, or the 17 and 18-year-old who's into hardcore gaming. We're going to need all of that, but I do hope to see that the technologies understand how to make more regular, and it'll be just like wearing the glasses that you or I may wear now to help us with vision, except it'll be enhancing so much more and be providing so much. So it doesn't necessarily need to be head mounted. There's lots of AR, that happens outside of the head mounted display, but wearable stuff. But I think it's exciting to see, 5 years from now, just how the way that the smartphone has changed the way that we interact with one another. I think augmented reality and virtual reality are going to do some of those same things.
Amazing. Yeah, transcending demographics, transcending traditional barriers to technology and access to education about this stuff. I totally agree. I'm super excited for the future, and being at the forefront, being an early adopter is just so exciting. Mike, as always, thank you for your input. It's so great to see you. It's so great to chat with you. I love hearing about the progression in your project. So
loved being here.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to some questions from folks. So I look forward to a chance to tackle some of those later on. So thank you for inviting me up.
Of course.
I'm looking forward to Warren's. Yeah.
And that's a great reminder, everyone. If you do have questions for Mike or for us about our programs, or for Warren, who we're going to invite up right now, feel free to tack them into the questions tab so that we can get them going in the Q&A portion of today's event. But Mike, thank you once again. We look forward to having you back on in just a few minutes here.
Thanks, Kyle.
Okay. Warren, welcome. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Can you hear me? Is everything going all right?
You are all good. As always, every time I see you, I have to admire the music collection in the back there. It's just phenomenal. Absolutely jealous. I wish I had a space like that in my apartment. But anyways, welcome. We're super excited to have you here. Just to play a little bit of a hype crew for you here, I want to let the audience know that Warren's literal job title on LinkedIn is live streaming ninja. So we do have an active ninja in our audience or on stage. So just welcome, Mr. Ninja.
Right on. Yeah, that title, when I first joined YouTube, like, my manager at the time was like, you need business cards going out to trade shows and all this stuff. I was like, can I put this on there? They were like, yeah, whatever. I don't care. So I put it on, and it stuck. And just like, that's how people got to know me. So when I threw it on LinkedIn, yeah, it's just like this great, it leaves an impression in a positive way, but it's so fitting because, like you mentioned earlier, we work behind the scenes on some of the largest events, and you'll never even know that we were there.
You're right. No, that's awesome. A couple other things too for the audience that I want to shout out. I saw this. Well, first let's start here. You're a brand new homeowner, so congrats on that. I know you said you got a big move upcoming, so congrats on that.
Cheers. Appreciate that.
Of course, man. And then more recently, I just saw this yesterday. Actually, I saw Oculus featured some of your work as part of their Black History Month celebration. So kudos to that. I'd love to hear about what that work is, how you got to where you are today. So tell us about that post and that piece.
Yeah, so that kind of goes back to how I got started in VR, obviously like really heavily into gaming and making objects, right? More of a creator, dare to call myself like a sculptor, and found that VR was a lot more easy to make objects than, you're making a 3D objects on a 2D plane is kind of like not the best. Not the best until you do it in VR. And that
Right.
was kind of like my first entry into VR creation, the tilt brushes, the poly, and the Oculus Medium stuff. And inside Facebook Horizon's new platform, it's really kind of like an all-in-one. And I just started, making hangout spaces that have interactive activities in them that people just started to gravitate towards. And a lot of the scripting that's done in there, the Unity course here has helped me understand what was happening with objects and variables in those worlds. So it definitely made the transition a little bit easier to make the functionality of the interactions in those worlds work. When the community asked me to join to highlight that world, I was like, absolutely, it's a complete honor. Definitely taken by surprise, but I'm not gonna understate how much of an honor that is. I'm kind of floored by it myself.
Yeah, no, I hear you, man. And it was cool. I was reading through the post, and the environment just looked incredible. And no, it's great to see that we were able to support you in that transition long term. I want to dig into that a little bit because you came. I remember the first time you and I chatted. Again, it feels like forever ago. I think it was sometime last summer.
Yeah.
Unlike Mike, you sort of came from a non-programmatic background. You hadn't done any upskilling previously, as far as I was aware of. And you jumped straight into the 10-week course. And actually, Sarah in our audience just mentioned that the scripting piece was the most challenging part for you. How did you approach your learning environment when you were jumping into our 10-week course? What was challenging? What were you hoping to get out of it? I'd like to hear that journey.
Honestly, so what I got out of it and what I was hoping to get out of it was exactly the same thing. And I had tried Unity like most people, doing the YouTube self-learn sort of stuff, and like was kind of spotty and not coming back to it. If versions were different, then I'd get an error in the console that like might as well have been written in Mandarin, right? So what I was hopefully trying to get out of it was like having it seem less like, as Jerry put it, like matrix code, and more readable every time I go in there. So just a general comfort with Unity and understanding the fundamentals of how things work in the different panels and where to find things was a huge benefit. And now when I go to get packages from GitHub, not having any experience with GitHub prior to this coursework, I find that like those tutorials are making sense, and I know how to incorporate other projects and to aid it to my work. So I really was just, having taken both, the first course was more of a, what does this look like? What can I get out of it? So I just kind of joined in terms of like a general class learning. And, I still got the one-on-one with Terrell, and still push toward a project that I kind of had something in mind, but was really lukewarm on. So when I joined the second time, after having gone through the first coursework, I had, very specific things to dial in to learn, because during that coursework with Usman, the first half was VR, the second half was AR. And I definitely found an affinity more towards AR stuff. At least in my mind's eye of like, that's applicable right now to what I'm doing or what I can work on. But what I wanted to get out of it was to force myself to commit to learning and upskilling in this, which is something I knew I wanted to do. And the YouTube self-learning, Googling, reading documentation was just like, I wasn't retaining any of that knowledge, unfortunately.
Right. So that live hands-on approach, the get your hands dirty mantra and sort of practicing and just doing it, putting in the time was a big benefit for you. Okay, great. I am curious to hear your thoughts as somebody who, you mentioned matrix code. It's funny. So our C# course, which I haven't highlighted yet, it's a short program that we offer for folks in the audience. You've taken it twice. And what's funny is you took it after having already done the 10-week course. For you, is that the piece that was sort of the biggest barrier, the thing that was the hardest? And what advice would you give to a beginner looking to make a similar transition like you have?
That is the missing link. As Sarah had said, like, yeah, scripting is hard because in a lot of ways it is like learning a different language. It is literally a different language, like Spanish or Mandarin. So understanding the format and what C# is asking of me, or how to sort of set variables and get them to appear in the inspector, or where to alter those things is where I've found the most value, because then I can, I don't have to reinvent the wheel. I can use other things that people have already created and manipulate it to my project.
Right.
And scripting was the bigger hurdle because, like I said, applying a texture and a skin to an object in Unity, setting parent and child, right? These are things that you can kind of do on your own, but without the C# aspect, you've just got an idle project. And I joke that I would like take it again, mostly because I do believe in the live learning aspect and the ability to be able to ask questions to the professors and to get the community who's learning as I am, that there are no stupid questions. And so I don't have the hesitancy to be like, I'm stuck on this thing, but I'm unsure as to whether or not, like, if I'm going to be perceived as dumb, or if this is something we covered in the first 5 minutes. Why can't you get this? If I can give any advice to people, I would say that, like, the learning curve is steep but short, and there are no stupid questions, right? The community is super supportive, and the instructors, and their one-on-one time. I've been completely impressed by their ability to venture outside of the scope of you help me with the project to see the project to fruition. Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, no, that's awesome. I want to dig into some specific experiences that you had as somebody who's taken both of our courses. So for the folks in the audience, both the 10-week course, the beginner-friendly one, and the accelerator course that both Warren and Mike have taken, there's that applied learning component, lessons that happen twice per week, and the one-on-one component. Warren, in your experience, were there any major differences in how you perceived what we were teaching in the two courses? And even in the one-to-ones, did you leverage those differently in one course or the other? What was that journey like?
In the one-on-ones, I definitely leveraged them differently. And if I could go back, I'd probably apologize to Terrell for not for wasting his time, but like, I didn't really have a project sussed out, and, the meetings would come and go. So I did, make a better use of my one-on-one time now with Cash. With the course itself, I think you're right in separating those two, because the accelerator is definitely more, I don't want to say intense, because that would like strike fear in people, but it's definitely more to digest week to week. And it definitely gets a little bit more into theory. Like the 10-week course, Usman was great in teaching us why to do these things, but it was still pretty general in helping you get confidence in using Unity to your own project. And I think the intention that it kind of stay general was super helpful, so that people in the course can say, I needed to do this. I wanted to do that, because there were artists in there who wanted to make virtual sculptures. There were engineers who wanted to apply it to training programs at their work. And then there were like people like me who's like, let's see what this thing is capable of. Yeah.
Amazing. No, that's awesome. And super beneficial, I'm sure, for anybody in the audience looking at this stuff. Warren, I want to ask you sort of more macro stuff. What's next for you? What are you thinking in your career with this technology? And even what's YouTube thinking about this technology? Obviously, huge opportunity in the entertainment space. I'm curious to hear your.
I can't speak, unfortunately, I can't speak on behalf of like what they might be planning or doing. And there are definitely several different teams that are tasked with thinking about this. So I don't want to presumptuously speak on their behalf. I work on a team called the Emerging Tech Team as it relates to live streaming. So a lot of times, in addition to supporting these events, we interact with the ecosystem that sends the events to us, but also we need to be on the fringe of what's happening so that when these big brands and partners come to us and say, is this possible? We're not trying to fact find and, do the testing. We can confidently say yes or no, or this is what you would need. So in the application of VR and AR for streaming, right? That's if on my professional aspect, like that's kind of where I focus it. But on the personal side, I'm using it to upskill myself only because I see it the same way that I saw live streaming like 12 years ago, where like at some point, this is going to just cannibalize everything and streaming. Every company's going to have a streaming aspect. Now you've got millions of streaming subscription services, right? So every team has one. I thought that was a pretty good prediction there. What I see with VR AR is that there's no way to escape it. The genie's out of the bottle. Like our kids or our grandkids are basically going to have a job that interfaces directly with or will be working exclusively in VR AR. I don't see that there's any way around it. But that's just me. And that's what I'm upskilling myself against, just to be better prepared for the job market. But also, just like streaming, it was a hobby that I was fortunate enough to turn into a job. With learning these VR creation development tools with Unity. I don't know. I'm not actively trying to pursue that. But if it happens, like I wouldn't stop that inertia,
Yeah. And you're ready too, right?
Exactly.
It's all about being ready. And that's the thing. We often get asked, my counterpart, Steph, who, we've seen in the audience today as well, would you feel job ready after this experience? And I mean, I'm going to ask you very candidly, do you think you'd be job ready at this point? You'd be confident putting in an application for a bid as somebody involved in this space?
So depending on the role, I know I've had this conversation with Dejan on the Slack channel because he's posting about, XR and VR opportunities. And I'm like, do you have like a job description? Because like that vaguely sounds like something I'm capable of right now. So yes, upward inflection, maybe. It just depends. And in speaking with Cash, these certificates, they're great, but it's like, what project have you created is more where the industry is on like getting hired, right? So at the conclusion of the accelerator, if I've made this project and I've done this, that in and of itself, and in the building of it is what employers want to see in my limited experience, more than, I've got this coding background history, I've CS and whatever, like, what have you built? So to that end, I'm like, I feel ready, but also I don't want to like step into a potential role, make myself look bad, make Circuit Stream look bad or anything like that. But I definitely, I put it like this. When I applied for my first streaming job, I was less confident than I am applying now for potential virtual development jobs. So yeah, I definitely feel ready. I definitely feel ready.
That's awesome. No, that's really good. And yeah, the best example that I always get anytime I have this chat, because I'm fascinated by this stuff, it's building the plane as you fly it, right? Unlike in a traditional industry, there is no cut and dry answer. There is no, you need this many years and you need to be able to do this specific skill in this order in under 30 minutes. It's very much I don't want to say fake it till you make it, because that's not the case at all, but it's very much, what can your portfolio prove and how can you demonstrate this expertise to me?
Yeah. And I think the other thing that working with, you know, the one-on-one advisors and with the community in Slack is understanding just how much of I'm sorry, just how much VR development is standing on the shoulders of other giants, right? Like it's pretty rare that, you know, you're building something from scratch. It happens, again, in my limited experience, but like you're basing it off of the work of, you know, people who have come before you that, you know, have solved this problem, um to implement your own custom solution. Like it's not, I'm talking in circles, but it's not, you're never going to be thrown into the deep end without any references. And the Circuit Stream courses help me understand how to pull and use those references on places like GitHub to see through what I need to make. Yeah.
Oh, amazing. And I appreciate you saying that. Um, I've got one more question for you here. This is very general, and I do also think that this would be beneficial for people who are where you were a year ago. Can you discuss the importance of considering a program like ours, or a partner to help support your personal professional growth and development? Sort of the importance of training partners generally. What are your thoughts there?
What do you mean, training partners? Like as like an advisor, or like someone who walks me through?
Either. I think what I'd like to understand is, you know, both as an individual, somebody who sought out professional support to upskill, and potentially at the institutional level, if for example your organization wanted to invest in a training partner, how important do you think that process really is?
As somebody who does trainings in my industry, for my role, like it's critical, I think, because having that person walk you through the real-time obstacles that you're facing is invaluable, right? Like, and it's not going to be like, do this, do that, and the other. There's some aspect of that, but really you retain it by having done it yourself.
Right.
And like self-study kind of doesn't do the same thing. So having those knowledgeable trainers will, at least, if especially if you're an organization and you want to make sure that people are maintaining at a baseline, um, it's kind of like a no-brainer to me that I would want to use a professional service like this. I think it's a little bit harder for people's personal egos when, like, now I can do this, you know, because like literally I've struggled with like the YouTube videos, like, why can't I, this is, you know, what's wrong with me, like this, no, I have to get it, when really there's, you know, nothing wrong with you. You really just need the added help of being able to tackle something right now.
Right. No, I couldn't agree more. In any walk of life, in any emerging technology, having that support, especially as you mentioned, is where there is no sort of infrastructure or ecosystem to support creators on their own yet, having the ability to work with the few that do have that skill set and that knowledge is critical. I totally agree. So I'm glad you feel that way. Warren, I think we should wrap it up there. We're about an hour into the presentation today. Really appreciate the insights, man. Really excited to see all the cool things you're working on. And I'm super excited to have you and Mike join for the Q&A portion in about 10 minutes here. Reminder to the audience, any questions for Warren and Mike or myself about their experience with us, you know, our thoughts on the programs, their plans, anything at all, please paste them into the questions tab. They will share their insights. If you do have questions, now's the time. So let me just share my screen here again, 1 second. I'm also going to drop in a poll here in just a second as well. So please and thank you. Please head over to the polls section. This is really, really important for us. It helps us to decide whether or not we should continue doing workshops and webinars like this. It really helps us to curate content based on what our communities are looking for. So on a scale of 0 to 10, how likely are you to recommend this workshop or webinar? This one, really, really, please do take a quick second to answer for us. super, super helpful. So it's in the polls tab now. Please go have a look at that there. Okay, moving on. I'm going to take just a few minutes here to sort of put a bow on our presentation before we'll re-invite Mike and Warren on stage to address the questions that we have seen. As a reminder for everybody here in attendance, we will be sending out the recording from today's workshop. So if you want to review any of this material, you will have access to it. Do not worry. Moving on, if you've enjoyed hearing about Mike and Warren's experiences with us today, we would love to have you or your team join us in our programs. As both Warren and Mike said, no matter who you are, what your current skill set is, we really believe that we can help you. Whether it's a career change, starting a business, integrating and innovating with this technology back at work, or upskilling as a team, we would be happy to connect with you to see if your goals align with what we have to offer. On screen are a few more of the students who have studied with us over the past few years, and they've all gone on to do incredible things in the XR industry. On the left, Mike Oakes, he took our 10-week course a few years ago before our accelerator course had actually launched, and he just started a few months ago as a software engineer at Unity. So for him, it really helped him launch his career. Whereas Jennifer Swan, she comes from the financial services industry as well. She was able to get a scholarship and some personalized education after her experience in our 10-week course with the prototype that she built in the Oculus Launchpad program, which is an amazing educational support system that they've created for young and promising creators. And then, of course, Matt DeLallo, who we did have on at an info session we hosted just a few months ago. He's actually from down the street here with me in Toronto. He's an XR designer at Lucky VR, and he's transitioned his career as well in the VR online gaming space. How did they do it? Where did they come from? Referencing both of our courses here. These are the flagship full courses we have to offer. The XR development with Unity course, it's beginner friendly, part-time, online, live course, really designed to teach those fundamental skill sets and best practices for prototyping this content in Unity. Our next cohort begins on the 27th of April, and the tuition fee there is on screen. More on the XR Project Accelerator course in a minute, but just for now, know that we actually do have a cohort starting on Monday, the 1st of March, but the cohort beyond that, we don't actually have an exact confirmed start date. I would anticipate it'll be probably 2 to 2.5 months from now, but the date does remain to be confirmed. Diving in specifically to the XR development with Unity program, it's definitely the course that we would recommend to most beginners. Unlike, you've got an experience like Mike where you've had some supplemental education and you want to dive into something more specific. For the most part, we would recommend that folks start here. 40 hours of education, all live and online, over 10 weeks. It also includes 10 hours worth of those one-to-one appointments that you can use however you'd like. But just know for now that we would love to help you bring your very own project idea to life. Now, the short courses too. Warren and I were speaking about this pretty extensively. We do offer two. They're also both live and online and part-time as well. But they differ from the 10-week program in that these are teaching specific skill sets, specific learning outcomes, rather than teaching, platform agnostic, hardware agnostic content, best practices, and how to get started. These are programs designed to specifically teach you something that we believe is essential for beginners to know. The C# scripting fundamentals course is a 3-week program that is great to take leading into the course as a prep program or afterwards as a refresher, as Warren has done. As the name suggests, we dive into the fundamentals of the C# language and how to go about using Visual Studio within the Unity editor to create scripts, which is an essential part of the development process. Here, our next cohort gets started on the 15th of March. The intro to XR Design short course, it can be taken as a standalone program or in conjunction with our other programs, as we believe that it's essential for XR designers to have at the very least a basic skill set in developing content. But if you're quite sure that you don't want to be a developer, you want to avoid coding like the plague, this is a great program for traditionally trained designers looking to transition their skill set to the XR space. It's a 5-week program that teaches the fundamentals of visual design, sound design, special effects, and technological limitations with human factors in the mixed reality spectrum as well. This course also gets started on March the 1st, so just next week. Now, with the 10-week course, with both of our short courses, truly no experience is required. So please, beginners, have no fear. For the more intermediate or advanced folks in the room, I didn't see many for the purposes of today, but if you're watching the recording, hi. But if these previously mentioned programs are a little bit too beginner for you and your skill set, the XR Project Accelerator course would be more suitable for you. This is a portfolio course that continues to teach sort of more advanced best practices in subjects like AR and VR interaction development, as well as things like optimization and publishing applications. But the main focus of this course is to help you take an existing portfolio project and advance it to the point where you would be comfortable commercializing the app, if indeed that was your desire. We actually do this by ramping up the amount of one-to-one time you get with your expert every week. So in addition to the weekly lessons, we actually meet with you for 2 hours per week to help you with that project. All of our courses do have payment plans. So if you'd like to spread the costs out over an extended period of time, please don't hesitate to take advantage of one of them. Now, this is really great too. We are offering a few bundles here that I'd like to highlight just quickly, because we really do believe that taking a holistic approach to education is the best way to learn new skills. So these 2 bundles here on screen are great that any new student is welcome to take advantage of. So the VR starter pack is actually the same price as the 10-week course on its own, but in addition to registering you into that course, we'll also enroll you into our C# scripting course, and provided that Oculus can ship to your location, we'll also send you a brand new Oculus Quest 2 as part of the process. Similarly, the VR Starter Pack Plus includes these 3 components, but there also is the option to add in the Intro to XR Design short course for 50% off of the packaged price. It wouldn't be fair to offer a starter pack without also offering an accelerator pack bundle. So here we've created an identical system. So the XR Project Accelerator course with the C# class and the Oculus Quest 2, and the option to add in the Intro to XR Design course at 50% off. Last thing that I want to bring up here, you've seen Steph in the audience today. You've already met me. Steph and I make up the admissions team here at CircuitStream. We're a little bit different than other companies in that Steph and I are extremely involved in the before, the during, and the after your registration process. We're really here to help answer any questions you might have about financial aid, your learning goals, your project goals, your specific ideas, anything technical about Unity or a particular VR and AR device. The list goes on. This is a free service that we offer. So please, if you've got any questions at all beyond today's workshop, don't hesitate to get in touch with either of us if you would like to chat. You can reach out to us directly via our website, or if you've already heard from one of us, feel free to give us a call, send us an email, add us on LinkedIn. Appreciate that, Floyd. This was a really old picture, actually. I've got a bit of a mop right now, but COVID. So I appreciate you calling that out. If you want to learn more about the courses beyond our descriptions and our chats today with Warren and with Mike, head on over to the learning page on our website at circuitstream.com/learning. You can download the syllabus for our full courses, read through the schedules, the pricing options for each of the courses on our page there, or submit an application if you're looking to get started. So without further ado, let's get started. I'd like to invite both Mike and Warren on stage here. We are going to go through the questions that have been added throughout the presentation. So guys, come on up here and let's tackle those. Okay, great to see you both again. Quick AV check, you guys all good?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Here.
think
Yeah.
awesome. All right, we are good. Okay, let's. Oh, also, for the folks in the audience today, you can go through and upvote the questions that you would like us to answer first. I'm going to organize by upvoted first, but we're going to do our best to get through everything sort of sequentially here with about 15 or 20 minutes left. Okay, so let's go ahead and start with Sarah's question here. So Sarah's asking, do you come up with one project and focus on that for the duration of the course, or something different? So I'll give my honest opinion up front. I want to hear Mike and Ward, both of your thoughts on this as well. Sarah, the answer to the question is it can be whatever you want. I think if you've got multiple ideas, you want to do some VR and some AR, or you've got some pie in the sky VR application idea, however you want to use that time. We typically recommend focusing on one project to start so you can really do your best to complete that prototype, but you can use that time however you'd like. But Warren, let's start with you. What do you think about this?
I think that's pretty accurate, especially since I came into this without a specific project in mind and then developed one as ideas came to me throughout the course. It actually changed over like a 2 to 3 week period, which probably added to Rel's frustration. But you definitely, you're still going to have that instructor one-on-one time. You don't need to have a project in mind, but it doesn't hurt, at least, to just go through the project development process to come up with something. So that would be my take on it, but it would definitely help you to have something specific that you wanted to work in. Specific questions get specific answers.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think Warren and I entered it in different ways, but exited the class in the same kind of way, in so much as from day one I had a project and I was like, this is the project. But because that project evolves, particularly with your upskilling and all the feedback that you're getting from the community, then you don't want to stay married to that. So it's nice to have sort of a starter question and say, where can that take me? Where is my education? Where is where are these new talents going to bring me? I don't know the answer to that, but let's figure that out.
Right. No, yeah, and I totally agree with both of what you're saying. The ability to, even if you just want to spitball ideas in your first one-to-one and work on that roadmap and talk about the limitations of this idea or that idea, I think really lends itself well to thinking about your long-term goals up front. So certainly not required that you have an idea coming into the course, but if you do and this is what I want to build, then great. But if not, great. So awesome. Thank you for your question, Sarah. Cindy has a few questions here in a row. She had some really, really good ones. So I'm gonna shut up with this one. I want to hear both of your answers here. So Warren, let's start with you as somebody who did the 10-week course. Did you prepare yourself leading up to the course? What materials would you suggest? Any particular resources that benefited you? Would love to hear your thoughts here.
So did I prepare specifically before the 10-week course? No. Did I have some general running knowledge of just the user interface of Unity? Yes, because I had tried to teach it to myself previously and grew frustrated with it. So if you were going to do some light coursework review materials, I'd say just skim some Unity tutorials just so that you familiarize yourself with it. And it's, when you hear the professor talk about it, it's in this window or this tab. But you don't need that because they're going to walk you through, especially in the earlier weeks, where to find things, how to do things, where to go. And you'll see it on screen. They're going to be projecting it on screen for you. And they'll give you chances and times during the broadcast, during the instruction to, implement the stuff that you watch them do. So you don't need it. But if you were going to, then some quick video refreshers would definitely be helpful. I don't think that they can hurt.
Yeah. And just so you're aware, Cindy, after you sign up for the program, let's say it's 2, 3, 5 weeks before the course actually gets started, we have a list of curated tutorials and resources that we share with folks. And we always say, Feel free to check it out if you want to get your feet wet, but we're going to cover it from scratch anyways, so absolutely no pressure whatsoever. Mike, as somebody who didn't do the 10-week course but started at a beginner level, leading into the program that you took at IU, did you have a similar experience? Did you get started with anything in particular, and if so, what was it?
Yeah, there wasn't anything more helpful than the Circuit Stream workshop in terms of me being able to gauge where can I take this thing. So what kinds of things might I want to learn? That was great. Let me go look for more of that on my YouTube videos, and where are my limitations, right? So they just hopped into Visual Studio and did some scripting, and I didn't understand any of it. So in terms of contextualizing where I was, it was really helpful to have that kind of, the workshops as just like spend an hour and a half getting exposed to that. That was great.
Yeah, I don't think there's enough emphasis on the exposure to it, right? Because much like a language that you're learning, right? At first, it's going to not make sense, but the more that you're exposed to it, the less it'll start to decode in your mind. So yeah, spot on with what Mike said. That exposure, it's going turbulent and like new to everybody, but just like ride the wave. The next week it'll start making sense and making sense and making sense. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, and especially with the coding piece, Warren, in your case specifically, you were saying, the more you practice, the more you see it, the less it looks like matrix code. I really love that analogy. It's a really good way to put it. This is another good one, also from Cindy. So Cindy, thank you for the question. I think that this can be generally applied to both of our courses too, not just the 10-week course. But outside of the 2 lessons per week that you guys get and the one-on-one appointments, how do you approach time outside of class working on your project or practicing the skills? How do you guys work on this? Mike, let's start with you.
So I've got lots of competing, interests with my trying to upskill, right? Full-time job, family, looking after, other outside of the house family. All of those things are going to decide how much time I get to spend on my project and so on. So I try to spend maybe 3 or 4 hours a week at a minimum, whether it might be 15, 20 minutes here and then 2 hours there, really trying to advance my interest in the project or my skill sets and so on. And there are some weeks when I have lots more time than that, but I really try to get at it, at least every other day to refresh those skills and so on. So I'm spending, in addition to the coursework and the one-on-one time and whatever, I'm trying to spend, maybe like 10 hours a week at a minimum trying to advance this.
Right.
Man.
What do you think, Warren?
That's hardcore, but it totally depends. Do you count researching, looking things up? As
right,
yes.
Yeah. So, like, or is it the actual time that I'm in there QAing and moving around in the scene? But I would just say that I do spend a lot of time going back and rewatching videos. Because they'll cover a specific topic and I just want to make sure I grasp it right or I'm not overlooking something. So if you missed the live class, the archive is still there. I would say probably cumulatively per week, given interest in 9-to-5 job, I'd put it more closer to 1 to 2 hours of time towards the project, with a large majority of that going towards trying something, having it not work, maybe 20 minutes, and then spending an hour and 40 saying, why didn't that work? At the end of it, getting it to work and then calling it a day. Yeah. Right. So that's a large portion of it.
No, that makes a lot of sense. This is an interesting question. So Daryl's telling us about his personal experience, sort of what he's thinking about. But the question here, I think, really lends itself well to the value of the one-to-one time. And I want to hear your guys' thoughts on how you can use the one-to-one time over and above the material that we teach in the course. So in Daryl's case, he says, as a filmmaker, I'm on the fence about how to best dive into 360 video and VR-related skills like virtual production. For example, The Mandalorian, all of the sets were made using the Unreal Engine, which is really, really cool. It blew my mind when I found out. But Unity, he mentions, will help him out with current clients and VR 360, that type of fun stuff. So despite these courses being Unity-based, will this have related concepts in Unreal Engine? Will the skills overlap? I'm going to let you guys answer this one because I want to hear what you have to think. So, yeah,
so I work with a collective down in the South Bay called Radiant Pixel, and we stream Dungeons and Dragons Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays, and sometimes Sunday on Twitch. Check us out. And they have a studio down there that they want to green screen, and we're thinking about getting a bunch of the people already throwing away LED walls, and trying to have a makeshift Mandalorian set on in their office. TLDR, they use Unreal. Going into Unreal, not having any experience with it, just simply looking for the tool set that I know that exists in Unity over there, it wasn't completely alien to me. But as somebody who does work in video and know exactly what you're talking about, you tend to see or make the distinction between Unity as like game development and Unreal for video. I don't know that that's accurate. I think that people have a preference. My hunch is that I could do the same in both, but I'm not up to the Mandalorian level yet. But it wasn't alien to me, and I add that as a positive, if that helps the question.
What do you think, Mike?
Yeah, I think the competent user in one of the game engines is going to have a much shorter learning curve as they hop into the other tools. And that's true for the game engines or, other 3D content creation, that sort of thing. And having some notion of how that works is just going to be helpful because there are fundamental concepts there. We do, by the way, have somebody in our accelerator course right now that is asking these same kinds of questions with similar kinds of projects. So it's really cool to see that unfolding because the industry is headed in so many exciting ways that like they're just going to be more and more of that. So in so much as can this stuff help with Unreal Engine or otherwise? I think it comes back to some of the early parts Kyle was talking about, and related to Warren. This is all forming right now. The tip of the spear, leading edge technology today gets pretty dated even a year from now, right? So as you're kind of moving into these areas, now when I say dated, I don't mean it's gone, but like there's just new stuff that didn't exist. The Mars stuff that Unity has and Unreal doesn't is amazing, and the companion app that they released in the last couple of weeks, just some incredible stuff. So it's just really cool where this is going.
Just one more note, because Mike brings up a good point. Like the streaming industry went through this. There was no standardization. Everything was hard coded. Like different platforms were doing different things like 10 years ago. And now they're all the same. The software devices are all the same. It's just like, where do I find these things? So he's absolutely right. Like this kind of tip of the spear right now. I know it's been out for a long time, but it's just like gaining some critical inertia. And I would imagine that everything that you can do there and here, especially with the Mars, I think recognition, facial contortion and animation stuff, well, it's only a matter of time before they're basically a mirror of each other, I feel like. Yeah,
totally agree, couldn't agree more. And I really like your point about the shortening the learning curve going from one to the other. We have members of our Instructor team who used to work with an Unreal Engine, some used to work with Unity. I think at the end of the day, their approach is they each have their nuances, but largely the fundamental general skills highly, highly similar. Yep. So I think that even if you're spending more time in one, you're definitely going to pick up the skills needed to do whatever it is that you want to do, regardless of how that comes to fruition. And I think that's the whole point. This is a really quick one. Floyd, thank you for your question here. I think this is very similar to the other question that we answered. I'm looking to find a stable workflow from Tilt Brush to Adobe Aero workflow for community events will this program satisfy this need? Tilt brush, absolutely. We've had tons of students come through and work with tilt brush to create their project or workflow, whatever it is that they're working on. I can't say specifically about Adobe Aero, but our instructors are pretty smart. I'm sure that they can figure out a workflow and help you with that. So I wanted to toss that in there.
Adobe
really,
Aero is
really
the
quick.
AR arm of Adobe, right? Like the standalone
I think so.
app building. Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
I'm sure it'll be fine. I'm quite sure it'll be fine. There was one, and Warren, you and I dove into this a little bit when we were when we had you on, and I was asking about your experiences and stuff. What are your thoughts on this question here specifically?
So I think in the XR accelerator, we got down into that. This is where I feel that I would be more prepared to take a professional role, because we started getting into design and industry practice tips on like how people normally do things or what you will see in the field, as opposed to the 10-week of getting you comfortable enough to take the training wheels off and go down the street on your own project. That's pretty much like the two differences that I would add. I think the XR accelerator program is, I hate to use the word more intense, but there really isn't another word, but not in like a bad way. It's definitely very micro in learning about the nuances of Unity.
Right. Yeah. Totally. I mean, totally agree. And that's sort of the major difference. The structure is the same, the learning environment's the same, but the outcomes are very different for sure, both in terms of the lessons themselves and then the desired outcomes with the one-to-ones as well. I think in summary. I'm going to answer this one real quick, just in the interest of time, guys. We got 2 more minutes here, so I've got one question here that I want to bring up for the both of you. Sarah, great question here, class size, instructor ratio. So our aim in the 10-week course is to have 15 to 18 students per section. We offer 3 different sections each cohort, and we feel that 15 to 18 people is a comfortable amount for everybody to have that conducive learning environment, as Warren said, asking your questions. You're not concerned about wasting times or asking a dumb question, but it's not so isolated that you're worried about, monopolizing the time or something like that. Whereas with the accelerator course, I think naturally there are less experienced people than there are beginners. So this cohort that both Warren and Mike are a part of right now, if I'm not mistaken, I think we had 14 people, something like that. So typically smaller cohorts.
Yeah, the class size is definitely structured to be a little bit more intimate. And I don't know, there's some attrition, or was it just like the normal size, Mike? It seems more intimate now than when we first started.
Right. I think there are 1 or 2 people who maybe they're super focused on their project and they have less time for the class. But and I think it's important to understand both the size of the class as well as, and we've talked about the size of the community, right? So I've got access through the Slack community to tap into 1,000 different minds or whatever. If I want to throw a question out there that's really obscure, I just want to feel that I'm part. Like, is everybody having this kind of issue? So we have the ability to not only reach out to our course mates, but also this bigger community too. And then you pair that with the one-on-one time, and it's like there's this spectrum of like, where do I need to be, kind of thing. And that has been really important to me, having the kind of feedback that comes from either the one-on-one sessions or a setting where there's a dozen people, or maybe I need to crowdsource this thing. And all of those things are available when I need it.
Awesome. Folks, we're right here at 4:30 p.m. Eastern time. I don't want to take up any more of your time. I know we're getting to the end of the workday on the East Coast, and I know you're both busy guys, but on behalf of all of us here at Circuit Stream, I just want to say thank you once more for coming out, sharing your insights and your experiences. I mean, I learned a ton about you both today, even though I felt like I know you guys pretty well coming into this. So hearing your insights was just phenomenal. Really, really excited that you were both able to join. So really just a heartfelt thank you. So yeah, just
Yeah,
thank you
thank
once
you.
more.
Thank you guys and the instructors and the community, man. Like this has been super. I can't really quantify how much the coursework has helped me. I actually think I'm like coming out on top if we're like, if it's a poker game, right? Like, yeah.
Well, good.
Yeah,
Good.
thank you. I've really enjoyed being part of this and the broader experience. So
Awesome. Awesome. And thank you to the members of the audience that joined us today. The recording is going to be sent out. Hopefully we'll be hearing from some of you in the future. Steph and I would love to meet you and to potentially do one of these things with you guys one day. So have a great rest of the afternoon, evening, morning, wherever you are. Stay safe, be well, and hopefully see you at the next one. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.